Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. William Foster stood in front of the wide floor-to-ceiling windows of his law office, overlooking the bustling city at his feet. This is his battlefield and his playground. At the age of 55, he has climbed to the top of his career as a formidable lawyer, known for his ability to win the impossible cases. William's personal life also seems to perfectly mirror his professional accomplishments. He lives in an exquisite house in a wealthy neighborhood, a testament to his years of hard work and dedication. His wife, Emily, is elegant and generous, the perfect accompaniment to his ambitions. William and Emily's meeting was a fated romantic encounter. At a charity dinner over 20 years ago, Emily's intelligence and warmth immediately captivated William. Theirs was a whirlwind romance. Dinners at fancy restaurants, walks in the park, and weekends spent exploring art galleries and theaters together. Less than a year later, they had a big wedding, with guests ranging from family and friends to William's colleagues in the legal profession. Over the years, William and Emily have worked together to build a life filled with shared dreams and mutual respect. Together, they traveled the world, hosted elegant parties, were active in the community, and earned accolades for their philanthropy and charm. Their social circle included prominent figures in the legal, business, and art worlds, all of whom admired the couple's devotion to each other and their shared vision for the future. As the annual family dinner approaches, William's heart is full of anticipation. This party is a cherished tradition and an opportunity to bring loved ones together to celebrate the bonds of family and friendship. This year, William has even more special reasons to look forward to the event. He has an important announcement to make that he believes will bring even more joy to their lives. However, in the days leading up to the dinner, William begins to notice subtle changes in Emily's behavior. At first, it was just the little things: missed phone calls, vague explanations for being late, a hint of detachment in the eyes during a conversation. William's instincts, honed over years of recognizing the truth, tell him that something is not right. The thought was like a thorn in his side, constantly tormenting him. Emily's increasingly obvious and mysterious behavior makes William more and more uneasy. She started going out at night more often, claiming it was for work or a sudden appointment with a friend. When William inquired, her answers were always short and stiff, lacking the warmth and openness that had characterized her conversations in the past. What was once a vibrant conversation over dinner turned into silence, as the two men each had their own thoughts, as if an invisible wall was slowly rising between them. As an attorney, William is highly trained in observation and excels at noticing details that others may overlook. His mind begins to piece together the contradictions in Emily's story into a puzzle he is determined to solve. Without alerting Emily, he began to gather information, and his professional approach served him well in this personal investigation. William quietly checked phone records and credit card statements, noting unfamiliar numbers and purchases. His heart sank with every hint he found that suggested a secret life beneath the surface of the marriage. Each piece of evidence was like a hammer blow, shattering the roots of trust they had built over the years. One evening, while Emily was out, William sat at his desk in the study, poring over the data he had collected. His hand trembled slightly as he opened Emily's laptop, searching for confirmation of his worst fears. Soon, he finds what he's looking for: text messages between Emily and a man named Nathan. These conversations are full of intimacy and familiarity, and each word is like a knife that stabs deep into William's heart. As he reads the messages, William feels a storm of emotions: anger, betrayal, disbelief. The words on the screen were a stark contrast to the life he knew, a discovery that threatened to destroy everything he held dear. However, even in the midst of this chaos, William's mind was still calculating his next move. His legal training pushes him to stay calm and think strategically. He realized that angrily confronting Emily wouldn't do any good. Instead, he decided to gather more information to fully understand the full extent of her betrayal before taking action. William's thinking had been strategic, and he began to formulate a plan, one that would ensure he was in control of the situation and protect his interests. As the date of the family dinner approached, William was ready for the challenges that were to come. He'll continue to play the role of the affectionate husband while orchestrating behind the scenes to make Emily pay for her behavior. A storm is coming, and William is ready to face it head-on, determined to emerge from the ordeal stronger and wiser. The morning of the family dinner is bright and sunny, but a storm is brewing inside William Foster's mind. As he busied himself with the preparations for the dinner, the feeling of both anticipation and dread lingered. This annual traditional dinner should be a time to celebrate family and friendship, but at the moment it has become a stage for him where he will begin to unravel the web of lies that has entangled his life. William spent the entire morning overseeing the final setup of the restaurant, making sure every detail was perfect. The dining table was set with beautiful crystal ware, and candles flickered softly against the room's elegant decor. The aroma of roasted lamb and fresh herbs filled the room, intertwined with soft classical music in the background. To any observer, it's a heartwarming picture of a family gathering, with relatives sharing the warmth of the holiday season. Yet beneath the surface, William can feel the cold weight of betrayal. For the past few days, he'd been meticulously planning how to confront Emily and Nathan, weighing every possible outcome in his head. He understands the risks of acting impulsively, and his training as a lawyer requires him to maintain a calm and rational demeanor. As a little bit of time passed, he calmed his mind, determined to remain calm no matter what happened. As the first guests began to arrive, William greeted them with his usual charm, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries with an easy demeanor. Even as his heart filled with the pain from the truth he had discovered, his smile remained unshaken. One by one, friends and family filled the living room, and the sound of their laughter and conversation became a balm to William's inner torment. He weaves his way through the crowd, making small talk with the guests and making sure everyone feels at home, all the while constantly keeping an eye on the clock and the door. Then the moment finally came. When the door opened again, William turned to prepare for the new arrival, only to feel his heart sink violently into his stomach. Emily stood in the doorway with a practiced calmness on her face, accompanied by her friend, Nathan, who had been casually introduced to the crowd. William's breath hitched as anger and disbelief surged through his body. Their deception was so bold, their contempt for their life together so staggering. Forcing himself to remain calm, William extended his hand to Nathan, displaying the same warmth he had shown to his other guests. His handshake was strong and firm, his eyes locked on Nathan's, an imperceptible spark hidden in his deep gaze. During the introductory session, William felt as if he were watching the scene from the sidelines, analyzing it calmly and objectively, while the pain of betrayal and the desire for revenge welled up inside him. Emily's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, William caught something, perhaps fear, perhaps guilt, but she quickly masked it with a smile and led Nathan into the room, where he began to be introduced to friends and family. William watched her carefully, noting the tension in her posture, her eyes roaming the room as if searching for some sort of comfort. As the dinner bell rings, guests make their way to their tables amidst laughter and light conversation. William was seated at the head of the table, with Emily sitting beside him and Nathan placed further back. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, the mingling a celebration of connection and camaraderie. But for William, every word spoken in conversation, every sound of knives and forks clinking together, felt like an echo of an inner storm. William is determined to stay in control and engaged in conversation with a smooth, rhythmic voice. He begins to gently question Nathan about his work, each question dark with a double meaning that only he and Emily can understand. "So, Nathan," William spoke up, his tone casual, "I hear you're a traveler. What brought you to us?" Nathan smiled, not seeming to notice the lurking tension. "Oh, just visiting some old friends and making new ones in the process," he replied easily. "Don't you think it's good to expand your circle of people?" "Indeed," William responded, his gaze briefly sweeping over Emily. "It's important to explore new territory, but people also have to be careful not to step into places they shouldn't." The conversation continued, William skillfully steering the conversation like a seasoned interrogationist, each question a subtle reminder of his knowledge. He watched Emily become more and more uncomfortable as her laughter became forced and her responses short. The guests, oblivious to the undercurrent, continued to enjoy the evening, their talk and laughter filling the room. As the entrees were served, William sensed a subtle change in the atmosphere of the room. Laughter became louder, toasts became more frequent as the wine flowed. and the overall atmosphere became progressively more relaxed. But beneath the cheerful surface, tensions fester between William, Emily, and Nathan, and a silent battle is quietly being played out at the dinner table. William raises his glass, signaling a speech. His voice traveled across the top of the table, covering all sounds of conversation. "To family," he declared, sweeping his gaze over everyone in the room. "To the bonds that hold us together even in the face of adversity." The guests raised their glasses and repeated his words, completely unaware of the deeper meaning behind them. William sipped his wine as his eyes met Emily's, locking her in a firm, unavoidable stare. This time, it was Emily who averted her eyes first, a crack appearing in her carefully maintained composure, albeit only for a fleeting moment. As the dinner continues, William keeps talking to Nathan, weaving questions into the conversation, each sentence hinting at the information he has. "Nathan, what do you think of our hospitality here?" he asked, his tone gentle but his eyes sharp. "Have you had a chance to experience all that our community has to offer?" Nathan hesitated, a look of uncertainty flashing across his face. "It's very hospitable here," he replied cautiously, "and I appreciate every kindness I encounter." "Kindness does matter," William said calmly. "But don't you think trust is more important, Emily, don't you?" Emily's fork suddenly hit the plate with an ear-splitting sound, drawing curious glances from several guests. She adjusted herself quickly and squeezed out a forced smile. "Of course, William. Trust is the foundation of any relationship." As the clinking of glasses rose and fell, William felt the alcohol coursing through his bloodstream, granting him an unusually sobering sensation that strengthened his resolve. He looked around the table, noting the faces of those he cared about, those who were oblivious to the storm that was about to erupt. His eyes finally landed on Emily and Nathan, who were talking, Emily's laugh forced and fragile. Watching her so comfortable with her betrayal, William's inner fire is completely ignited, reminding him why he must act, why he must reclaim the truth of his life. He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor with a sharp sound that drew the attention of everyone in the room. He raised his glass again and signaled for silence. Gradually, the chatter subsided and all eyes turned to him. The air seemed to grow heavy, and the guests sensed that something important was about to happen, but didn't know exactly what it would be. "Ladies and gentlemen," William began, his voice steady and resonant, "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This party has always been a time to celebrate the ties that bind us together: family, friendship, loyalty." He paused, letting the words echo in the air, their weight not to be ignored. Most importantly, honesty. The room fell into silence, the tension growing more pronounced as guests exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of the course of events. William's gaze sweeps across the table, lingering briefly on Nathan, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes as he sees the latter adjusting his posture uneasily in his seat. Emily's smile froze on her face, her eyes widening with the realization of what was about to happen. "In our lives," William continued, his voice growing stronger, "we often take these values for granted, consider them self-evident and inviolable. But sometimes we have to face the fact that not everyone agrees with these principles." A murmur swept across the room, and the guests sensed the tension lurking beneath the words, all attention focused on William, Emily, and Nathan. The silence that followed was breathtaking, as if everyone was waiting with bated breath for what would happen next. William turned to Nathan with aplomb, his eyes cold and sharp. "Nathan," he said, sarcasm in his tone, "you do bring something unique to this table. I want to give you a special welcome because it looks like you've become so close to our family." Nathan stirred uneasily, confusion and sudden realization mingling on his face. Before he could react, William took a step forward, moving with fluidity and precision. He grabs the bowl of tomato soup in front of Nathan and without hesitation pours the scalding hot soup over Nathan. The room erupted in shocked intakes of breath as the guests gaped at the scene. Immediately afterward, chaos descended as gasps and exclamations filled the air. The once peaceful dining room was now an unbelievable picture, the clatter of cutlery and the sound of chairs tipping over adding to the symphony of chaos. "Well, dumbass, welcome to the family. I hope you two enjoy this Last Supper." William finished, not hesitating to bury his face right into the bowl of piping hot tomato soup in front of him. This final act completely shattered the last vestiges of decency at the dinner party, unleashing all the latent emotions in full force. It was a moment when over 20 years of marriage, trust, and lies were summarized in the most dramatic way possible in a bowl of piping hot soup. Nathan staggered back, his expression a mixture of anger and humiliation, tomato soup dripping from his chin and leaving embarrassing stains on his shirt. He tried to regain his composure, but the damage had already been done, and all his self-confidence was in tatters at this public humiliation. William remained where he stood, his expression inscrutable, like the calm center of a storm. His gaze turned to Emily, who remained fixed in her seat, her face pale as she witnessed her carefully maintained facade fall apart in plain sight. The silence in the room, which had been clouded by shock, began to be broken by whispers. The guests began to talk in whispers, their voices mixed with sympathy for William and condemnation of Emily and Nathan. These friends and family members, who have admired the couple for years, are at this moment struggling to make sense of what is happening in front of them, trying to reconcile their mental image of the perfect partner with the reality in front of them. Emily stood up, her voice quivering as she tried to take control of the situation. "William, please, this is not the right time or place." William interrupted her immediately, his voice like a sharp knife. "So when is the right time? Emily? Will this lie be allowed to continue to corrode in private, or will the truth come out here?" Tears gathered in Emily's eyes as her composure gradually disintegrated. She turns to Nathan for support, but sees only his panicked retreating back, desperate to escape the scene. Guests began to gather their belongings and whisper goodbyes, giving William space to deal with the aftermath of this crisis. Some stopped on their way out to pat William on the shoulder or say a few words of comfort, their loyalty evident in their actions. As the last guest left, the house fell into a heavy silence, with only the faint sound of traffic on the distant street. William stood there, looking around the wreckage. The overturned chairs, the spilled wine, all of it a true reflection of the dramatic changes in his life. Emily approached him cautiously, regret and pleading in her voice. "William, I'm really sorry. I never thought things would turn out this way." William met her gaze, his eyes unwavering. "Sorry isn't enough, Emily. You destroyed the trust we built together, and that will take more than an apology to repair." The confrontation left an indelible mark between the two, a stain that could never be easily erased. But in the midst of the chaos, William senses a clarity of awareness and determination. He will face the storm and emerge stronger from it, guiding the way forward with the principles he has always stood for. William slowly paces to the study, the room filled with books and memories, the place where he built his career and constructed his life. Now, this would be his starting point for a fresh start. He gestured for Emily to follow, then gently closed the door, the slight rattle of the lock extraordinarily clear in the silence. He turned to face Emily, who had once been the woman he thought he'd spend the rest of his life with, but who seemed so strange at the moment. William took a deep breath and gathered his strength to face the conversation he never thought he'd experience. A heavy atmosphere filled the room and the air seemed to freeze. "We need to talk," William said, his voice smooth, though still reeling inside. "There has to be an end to all of this." Emily nodded, her hands twisting together uneasily as she followed William into the space that she had once known as well. And now here it was making her feel rushed, as if she were an intruder. William took his place in front of the desk, a place that had seen him win countless victories and now was about to witness one of the most personal battles of his life. The atmosphere was oppressive, almost suffocating, and Emily struggled to find the right words to break the silence. But every word paled in comparison. She looked at William, the man who had once been her safe haven, but was now the one she feared facing the most. The night was supposed to be a cozy family gathering, but it turned into an emotional earthquake that completely changed the course of their lives. William looks out the window at the city lights and thinks, 20 years of marriage, countless shared memories, are now overshadowed by betrayal. But as a successful attorney, he knows how he needs to act next, how to protect his interests, and how to get through this dark moment in his life. The silence in the room continued to stretch until William finally spoke, a heartbreaking calmness in his voice. "Emily, you disappoint me. Not just because of your betrayal, but because you chose the most despicable way to end our relationship." Emily's tears finally came to her eyes, but William could no longer be moved by them. Too many lies, too many betrayals had built an impenetrable wall in his heart. Now, he must handle this private crisis with the professionalism of a lawyer, replacing those shattered emotions with reason and strategy. In the days following that dramatic confrontation, William Foster threw himself into an elaborate scheme. Not only does he want to end his marriage to Emily, but he wants to make sure Nathan pays the price for what he's done. William's reputation and future require a flawless strategy, and he's determined to have justice served on his terms. Sitting in his study, surrounded by piles of books and legal documents, William began to comb through every detail he had about Nathan's business dealings. He'd long heard that Nathan's reputation was built on a fragile foundation, shaky and just waiting to crumble. Rumors of unethical behavior and questionable partnerships continued to reach his ears, but until then, he had never paid much attention to the gossip. He began to carefully gather evidence, connecting all the scattered clues into a web. Financial records, email exchanges, witness statements, all paint a disturbing picture of corruption and fraud. William knows in his heart of hearts that a well-planned revelation could destroy Nathan's career and make him pay the price he deserves for his betrayal. Armed with this evidence, William contacted a trusted journalist, someone he knew would handle the story with integrity. He provides the information anonymously, ensuring that Nathan's downfall will come from an outside force, keeping himself away from direct influence. The story is too compelling to be ignored, and William knows that Nathan's reputation will suffer irreparable damage if it comes to light. Whispers quickly turned into headlines as the article began to fester. Nathan's unethical behavior was made public, triggering a series of investigations that would haunt him for years. Nathan's once vibrant professional and personal circles are now cutting him off in droves, eager to clear their ties to the scandal. William observes this from a distance, his heart filled with mixed emotions. He achieves the desired goal of making sure Emily and Nathan suffer the consequences of their actions, but the sweetness of revenge doesn't fill the void left by the betrayal. This is just his first step toward healing. As the world around him clamors over the scandal, William turns his attention to the next phase of his life, rebuilding his life. The pain of betrayal remains, but he refuses to let it dominate his life. Instead, he finds solace in the unwavering support of his friends and family, whose presence serves as medicine for his broken heart. He began to reconnect with old friends who had become estranged during the turbulent years of his marriage. Luncheon meetings, dinner parties, and casual get-togethers slowly reconnect him with those who were once vital to his life. It reminded him of the value of sincere relationships, those based on trust and mutual respect. In his professional life, William has found a new purpose. His experiences have given him unique insights into trust and betrayal, which have become invaluable resources in guiding others through similar difficulties. Clients who find themselves in difficult situations benefit from William's empathy and expertise while he helps them navigate through personal and professional crises. His reputation as a lawyer continues to grow, not only because he is a formidable opponent in the courtroom, but also because he has become a compassionate advocate who truly understands the complexities of human relationships. Time passes, and with it comes a gradual release. William's life, once defined by a relationship shattered by deception, is now beginning to embrace new opportunities and possibilities. He faced the darkness head-on and came out of it stronger, and his resilience became a testament to his character. As the one-year anniversary of that ill-fated dinner party approached, William found himself looking back on the journey. The pain, though still there, had become a whisper rather than a cry, a reminder of the things he had experienced and overcome. He learned to forgive himself for the anger and hurt he had felt, understanding that healing is a process, not an endpoint. One late afternoon, while William was sitting at a local cafe, he struck up a conversation with a woman at a neighboring table. Her name is Rachel, and she is an artist with a warm smile and a keen intellect. Their conversations flow naturally, punctuated by laughter, as they discuss art, literature, and life's unexpected turns. It's a chance encounter, but when they exchange phone numbers and agree to meet again, William senses a glimmer of hope for the future. With Rachel, William finds a connection that is both refreshing and hopeful. Together, they explore galleries, attend book clubs, and their shared interests provide a solid foundation for a meaningful relationship to come. Rachel's presence reminds him that love, when based on trust and sincerity, can be a source of joy and fulfillment. William Foster's story, once shrouded in betrayal and heartbreak, becomes a tale of rebirth and resilience. He successfully navigates the complexities of the past, realizes his justice, and ultimately comes out the other end with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. His life is no longer defined by the betrayals he suffers, but by the strength and determination he shows in the face of adversity. Under the lights of the city, William gazed out the window at the stream of life, his heart filled with anticipation for the future. He knows that while the wounds of the past will always be part of his story, they have been transformed into something that drives him forward and makes him a fuller, wiser person. Life had given him a second chance, and this time, he was ready to embrace it with a more open and strong mind. It's late at night and the hustle and bustle of the city is subsiding, but William Foster's life is undergoing an unprecedented upheaval. This night marks an end, but also heralds a new beginning. Everything was going to change, and he had to be ready for the challenges that this change would bring. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.